Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be a part wrap-up, part vlog of the first week of the Blackathon. It's also the first week of the retro romance readathon, but I don't think I'm going to be getting to any of those this week. So I might do that next week or the week after because there's a lot of Blackathon stuff going on next week with like prompts for videos and stuff. Okay, so the first book that I read on February 1st was Prisoner of Love by Beverly Jenkins. I bought several novellas for this readathon because I've mostly run through all of the books from my favorite Black romance authors that are at my library, so I'm having to buy more of them to be able to read them, and novellas are half the price or less usually of full-length novels. I've also subscribed to Kindle Unlimited just for this month because a lot of the recommendations I was getting online were for books that my library didn't have any books by those authors, but Kindle Unlimited has most of their books, so I think that I will save money that way if I read as much as I'm hoping to be able to read. I might run out of steam on this as well, but it all kind of depends on how much I enjoy the books. This one is set in 1884. What state? Kansas, I think? And apparently Black people actually had some opportunities in this state at this time. Our main character is a Black woman living in a town where most of the population is Black, and she is getting a farm through a homesteading agreement with the government, where you're supposed to work the land for 3 years, and if you can make it profit after that point, you get to keep the land without having to pay for it. But this became difficult when her husband left her for a younger, prettier, more submissive woman in another town when he was away on business, and so she decides she needs somebody to help her work the farm, so she's going to marry somebody else. And there's some other kind of program where people who are in prison can get released if they get married and like go to I don't know, it's like the person they're marrying kind of takes custody of them or responsibility or something. That part didn't make much sense to me, but I assume it's based on a real practice because Beverly Jenkins, as so far as what I've read from her, always researches really well and really likes to do social commentary that talks about stuff by using real world examples and basing stuff off of things that actually happened even if they weren't particularly common. So the romance is a marriage of convenience for these two, and that's a trope that I enjoy, and so it was pretty good. It was a novella, so you don't have as much development as you would have in a longer novel, but I think that this story suited the length fairly well. They were quite sweet together and have some difficulties because of what the town thinks of somebody who's an ex-convict, but mostly it's a fairly steady ride that is just sweet and enjoyable the whole way through. Not too much tension. Then I started a series called Just for Him by Talia Hibbert, who's another of my favorite Black romance authors. Favorite authors, period, actually. She's autistic and, you know, tends to put autistic characters in her books. These are very interesting ones. I don't like boss subordinate romances, but the first one in the series, which was Bad for the Boss, was the first one. Did it in a way that I didn't find too off-putting. The power dynamics I felt were well handled. There were sex scenes that like involved, you know, the boss's desk and all that were just, I found extremely off-putting. But I know that that's a kink for some people, so I'm sure that's why it was included. But I really liked the personalities of both of those characters and their actual relationship that was not about the boss-subordinate dynamic. That was just how they met. The boss does make a bad decision at one point, but I appreciated the way that that was handled as well. Oh, and as for prompts, the first one by Beverly Jenkins fit the Black love. Both characters in the romance are Black people. prompt, whereas these ones do not. I'm not sure what the third one is, but the first two, the woman is black in all three of them. But the first one, the man is Chinese British, and the second one, he's white British, and I think he's also not black in the third one. And in the second one, it's Undone by the Ex-Con, is a really interesting thing that usually I haven't seen in an actual romance novel. I'm more likely to see it in like a fantasy novel that has a romance on the side. So this was about our heroine getting blackmailed into getting close to and finding out blackmailable information from the hero character by her boss when he figures out that the hero has a thing for the heroine. If you can parse all that complicatedness. And it takes place on a writer's retreat to the Alps because our heroine is a dance instructor for 3 girls who are the daughters of the boss, who is a publisher who works with the hero and wants him to sign a contract that is not a good contract. So he has to blackmail him into it. And so the main part of the romance takes place over about 4 days, and then we have a much slower kind of progression over the next few weeks. And this is pretty good. I enjoyed it more because it didn't have that dynamic I didn't like, but it had this other weird dynamic of her really liking the guy and wanting to have a real relationship with him, but knowing at the same time that she's supposed to have this fake relationship and get this information. Again, I really like the characters. Also, there was a fair amount about ballet because she's a ballet instructor. He used to be a ballet performer, and I enjoy ballet quite a bit. So now I'm going to start the third one in the series. I'm also working on War Girls, which I was at about 40% at the beginning of the month, and I'm trying to finish up. It isn't a romance, so I don't need to count my pages, but it is black-centered and by a black author, and also it fits the Instagram prompt of being set not in America, UK, or Canada, because it is set in futuristic Nigeria, and so I'm reading it for the Blackathon, just not for the competition part. And I like a lot of it, but also it's a bit of a wild ride. At no point have I been able to predict what was going to happen next. It did not go at all as I expected from the first several chapters, and then after that it kept taking all these twists and turns, which isn't really a positive or a negative. It's just not my usual experience because I'm fairly used to things being very, I don't know, predictable. I guess I read a lot of genre fiction that really sticks to a fair number of the same beats. But I don't read that much sci-fi in books. I usually consume it visually with movies and shows, so this might be much more usual for sci-fi than I know of. And then I'm also currently reading Ties That Tether by Jane Igharo, which is another book written by the same author that the romance team book for the Blackathon is. But my library only has this one. So I requested that they buy the other one, and they probably will. Maybe in time for the readathon, maybe not, but I'll probably end up reading it because it does look pretty good, and I'm enjoying this thus far. I am about 36% of the way through. So that's how things are going so far on the 5th. I think I'm going to do some art now. I think that'll make me feel happy. As you'll see in the next clip, I've had a bad few days before this, even though I've been reading quite a lot. This is the first clip that I'm filming of the week, but I might not put it in first because I'd rather start off with something a little more cheerful. But I just need to, I want to talk about, get off my chest that I had a meltdown yesterday, which is extremely unpleasant. An autistic meltdown, if any of you are new. And the way that I define that for me versus when I just have episodes of shutdown or just overwhelm or just a bad day or sensory overload is it usually happens after stress having built up over several days. acute stress over several days, whereas I have chronic stress all the time. And then I will get really mad and not want anyone to talk to me and get snippy at anybody who does talk to me, and also feel like it feels like it's justified at the time, like everybody is just being really, like they're picking at me, even if they're just saying things. And then something will be my tipping point, and I'll just break down and sob for a good 15 minutes. I should have just put a stop to it. I could feel that it wasn't good going into yesterday. Like the whole day I was like, I don't want to be doing this. We were working on getting another stage of the house renovation done that we're working on, and I just felt tired and frustrated and like I needed to rest and not do this. But I didn't feel justified in that. I felt like, no, there's no reason I should be so tired just because I had a super sensory overwhelming day yesterday because we accidentally used oil paint instead of water-based paint, and I had it on my hands for a really long time because we couldn't wash it off with regular stuff and we had to go home and get oil to wash it off with. And the day before that had been my work day, which I like my work, but it is 8 hours, and that's more than I can usually do in a day, and it only works if I rest the day before and the day after, which obviously I didn't, because the day before that I had a doctor's appointment. And so being an autistic person, it totally made sense that I was too tired and that I was going to go into overwhelm. But because of internalized ableism, I still judge myself by neurotypical, non-disabled standards and think, oh, I hardly do anything. Didn't leave the house until 11 o'clock, so like I rested all morning. And so I was being hard on myself, and there was a point at which I knew I should have suggested, let's just go home and not start this whole process that needed to be done all in one big chunk. Which was getting out the paint sprayer and painting several rooms. Thought I could just push through, and this is not accurate. I could not just push through. And the tipping point in particular was when I got paint in my hair, and that was super upsetting, was because it wasn't just like a sprinkle, it was like a big old glob of paint, and there were no good places to wash my hair out, even with just water. I did eventually manage to wash it out of my hair using less than optimal circumstances, but at least I didn't have to cut out a big chunk of my hair. If y'all don't know, I'm quite sensitive about my hair, which is why it is as long as it is, because I take as good a care of it as I can, being my neurodivergent self who can't put that much time into it per day. I'm very like, I don't blow dry it, I don't curl it, I use expensive conditioner on it, I don't wash it very often so the natural oils can be good in it. And even though I would like to try out more colors with it and bleach it and stuff, that would also damage it, and the bleaching part would. And I don't even like to color it that much because there's this long in-between phase between it's the bright color that you like, that you dyed it, and then it's this faded thing before it actually gets back to being your natural color. And I also really like my natural color, so I don't want to just constantly be changing colors and covering up the grucky half-dyed phase. So anyway, yeah, getting paint in my hair was a big bad. But yeah, long term, the part that I feel the worst about is the snippiness phase, when I'm upset at everybody around me, because I don't want to take out my problems on other people. This is another learning experience. Not only should I not do 3 stressful things in the same day, which is what happened the last time I had a meltdown, like 4 months ago, but I also shouldn't have 4 days in a row of being stressed out and not resting. That's too many. And I need to realize that it's okay when you've already like told people you're gonna do something and work on something together. If I realize especially before I've started it, but even after I've started it, that no, I really can't do this today. I need to actually say that and stop doing it. I'm dog sitting again, but I'm just gonna sit around and read today and take care of the dog, and that's all I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna film a little bit, but mostly I'm gonna read. And I'm reading a bunch of romances, so that's fairly relaxing, but I also brought a fantasy to read in case I get tired of reading a bunch of romances, because I've been doing that for the last 5 days. It's like the 5th now. So yeah, I will update with reviews of the books I have read so far. So it's the 6th, and I have finished War Girls. Like I said, I could not predict where it was going. Like, up till the very end, I did not know how this is gonna wrap itself up, or like where it was going, but I ended up really liking it, so that's something. And I read the synopsis, whatever, for the next book in the series, and I think I want to read that as well. Also, I read the author's note at the end, and Tochi Onyebuchi said that he based a lot of this on the actual Nigerian Civil War that happened in the late 1960s, and wrote a fair amount about how that went down in the author's note. So if you want to know about that, that is included at the end. So I really like when people like Beverly Jenkins does that with a lot of her books as well. We'll put like details about what inspired, what historical actual events or laws or historical figures inspired a particular book, and that's really interesting and helpful. He did also leave a bunch of titles of books that he used for research. I'm glad that there's such a good book that looks into so many different facets. Even though it just uses 2 characters, it looks into a lot of different facets of this fictionalized sci-fi version of the war. I thought that was really cool. And I haven't finished any more books, but it's time to edit this video, so I'll let you know what I think of Ties That Bind, if that's Ties That Tether, the book that I said I was currently reading, in my next vlog, which will also have all those special extra details for the weekly vlog prompts that Blackathon has involved in it. But yeah, so far I'm having a really good time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!